Are you the moderator?
Yes, so.
All right.
Are we starting now, or?
Yeah. All right. Is everyone ready? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I gotta stand. Hello, good morning, everyone. My name's Jeremy Duncan. I'm here representing Tachyon Dynamics. We also have this group here, this panel that we're going to be going over. This is basically dealing with the cyber community groups in the Northern Virginia area. So I want to go through and kind of introduce everyone, and then we're going to ask some questions here in a bit. So, Mom, can you introduce yourself?
So my name is Hamza. I am the founder of Beltway Hackers. We usually meet once a month, at Northern Virginia Community College Alexandria campus. So anyone who's out that way, it's open to everyone. It usually meets towards the end of the month, and we try to make it on either a Thursday or Friday. Because we do have students that also come in, so provide opportunity for students and professionals to network. And
can't just speak up. All right, speak up. Chris Gates, NoVA Hackers. We've been around since 2008. Ooh, I got a couple. Yay! We meet second Mondays of the month at NoVA Labs in Reston. Anything else you want to know? Or is that good? All right, let's start with that.
Hi, I'm Tool. I'm with, Tool, the open organization of lockpickers. We're not technically cyber, although we do have a lot of cyber members. We're more physical security and lockpicking for the fun of it. We meet once a month at a bar called The Boardroom down in D.C. near DuPont Station, 6:30 p.m. first Wednesday of every month.
Hello, everyone. Tyrone Wilson. I am the CEO of Cover 6 Solutions, co-founder of Hack Educate, and also the organizer of the DC Cybersecurity Professionals Meetup Group. We meet twice a month in Crystal City. We're expanding to the Tyson's Corner area, and we've also expanded to Miami, Florida, and Boston, Massachusetts. So if you guys are in the area, come check us out.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Okay. Mary Galloway, I am the Director of Finance and Communications for Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu. We are a nonprofit organization that provides hands-on training in cyber for women. We're here locally in the Arlington, Alexandria area. We are expanding to Las Vegas, that's where I came from, and California as well.
So thank you. So one thing I wanted to ask these folks here, and then we'll keep going here, is what is it that you enjoy most about the community group you're a part of?
I like the fact that we have a big group of women that come together. They want to learn. They're happy about getting their hands dirty. They like doing the competitions. They like hacking, all that kind of stuff. And then I get to meet all these great folks and come to events like this. So that's kind of the cool thing that we get to do.
Okay, so one of the things that I thoroughly enjoy is the networking. Also, when you see that light bulb, go on in someone's head once they learn something new, or they get introduced to someone new, or for just someone that just has no idea on how to get in the industry, and having that ability to provide that platform for them, and then talking to them a year and a half later or 2 years later and seeing them progress in their career, and then they come back and say thank you. Those thank yous are, the things that keep me moving.
Just as an aside, I've been to his meetups. They do rock, so highly recommend it. Okay, so Tool's a lot of fun. That's basically what it comes down to for a lot of us is lockpicking is fun. It's a very tactile sport, so to speak. However, part of our purpose as an international nonprofit is to spread awareness about physical security and locks in specific, because locks haven't really changed a whole lot in hundreds of years. We're still using the same basic mechanisms that can be easily overcome. And the more people we educate and teach, one, it's satisfying to see that, and two, it forces manufacturers to know, hey, people are aware of this, make better stuff.
Man, those are really good answers. Wow. I would say that Rob Fuller and I kind of co-founded this in 2008. We kind of saw we would go to all these meetings and nobody would interact with each other. They'd come and eat pizza and like one person would get up and give a talk and you wouldn't actually talk to anybody that you didn't already know. And then you would leave. And this was in 2008. No one knew who I was. I didn't really have much to offer at the time. And we wanted to start a group where the whole idea was to actually start to know each other in the group and become a family. And I think over the last 7-8 years, we've been able to do that. We do that by it's not a hard enforcement, but we really want everyone to show up the first time and give a talk. The talks are like 5 to 15 minutes. We want to know who you are, and that way we know what you're good at and how to interact with you and what you bring and what we can bring to you to help you out. So the group's been great. I give all my talks to the group first, and I get honest, real-world feedback from people that I trust. It's gentle feedback, so even if it's bad, I get told in a gentle way, hey, you should probably work on this, or you didn't sanitize that, or that's just bad. But I think everyone really enjoys the camaraderie that we have in the group, and low drama.
So what I really enjoy is people from different backgrounds coming together. So different technical backgrounds, whether you have someone who's a network engineer, sysadmin, even help desk, or someone who really doesn't know anything about security and they're really trying to get into the field, and having them come in and mix and network with everyone and share different ideas and learn from one another, because if they can learn a new skill or pick up something that they can feel passionately about, it's really great to see that type of opportunity that happening.
Thank you. Those were very great answers. One thing I've noticed, at least in all these community groups, is there's almost like a sense of training that comes with that, right? So knowledge passes from one person to another. There's a lot of like community-based training that happens. So do you believe an environment like that, nonprofits, something that's not a for-paid training service, do you think that's better than one of those kind of for-paid training services?
I think it's more supplemental. You definitely get something different when you go to a free course than you do when you go to a paid course. So all the stuff that we offer it's a supplemental thing to your learning. It kind of gets you involved and get your hands on it to say, hey, I think I might like this. Let me move on to a more advanced learning of this topic. And so they go hand in hand. You kind of have to have both.
Yeah, just to piggyback, it's twofold. So if you offer a paid service, then the folks that are paying, they seem to be a little bit more interested. They pay attention more. But also for the free courses, you can literally bring in anyone you want and talk about anything you want and have lots of flexibility during that training. And then when it's free, you have folks from all over the industry coming in and sharing knowledge that's not on that specific topic. So, it goes hand in hand.
Tool's in a little bit of an odd spot here because we don't have any paid stuff. I mean, you can pay for lockpicks, but for training, just come up and see us. But as someone who's currently getting a master's in computer science, I feel like there's a place for both of them. The free training, I feel like, fosters that sense of community to a greater degree than the paid training does. But I feel like the paid training can often fill in a lot of gaps that you sometimes miss out on with the free stuff, just because the free stuff is often so intermittent.
Yeah, we don't do any training. We run ShmooCon Epilogue, which I highly encourage everyone to show up to. It's usually right here. And it's really, I think it's only a few dollars just to curb people buying tickets and not showing up. I think we use the group a lot of when you have a question that you can't get answered on Stack Overflow or Google, a lot of people will hit the group up, and we have like 500 people are on the mailing list, and they're all really, really talented, and a lot of times a really hard question can get answered on the mailing list, so that's not necessarily something you'd get from training.
So I feel that, free trainings, they really supplement structured, paid training. There are pros and cons to both things. With free training, there are times for you to have the opportunity to do different things that you may not in a paid training, because there's usually structure and a specific focus. It's all dependent on where this training is coming from. But I do believe that it can supplement. Sometimes you can get better quality with free training or even with paid. But again, it depends who's really providing that training. There's some curriculum that's very outdated, but still provides the foundational items that you need to know in order to really grow. But again, it all varies on the type of training. But I think free training really supplements paid training in general.
Yeah, those were really good answers. One thing I've noticed about community groups like this is that when it's more relevant, right? So if you go through paid training, there's a lot of stuff that you have to learn that you really shouldn't have to learn anymore. For example, if you're getting a CCNA, you have to learn about frame relay, right? Why do you have to learn about that? Because there's one organization out there that pays Cisco for frame relay. So it's stuff like that, right? So these community groups where you're not really paying for it, but you're getting like, up to the minute, great, like, information, how to, how to kind of get around things like that. So that's one thing I've noticed. So we have a lot of these groups in a lot of the areas, right? So some have speakers, some just have general discussion. What is the one thing that's probably the most interesting that you've ever had in your group kind of talk about? Let's start over here.
So one thing that was really interesting would be exploit development. So we had a speaker come in, talk about exploit development, because there were some individuals that were in the audience that they've never even tried anything with exploit development. So at least they got their feet wet in that sense, and really were exposed to some of the high-level stuff. Exploit development isn't easy, and there's a lot of background that you need to have, but they were at least able to, understand some of the concepts and at least get direction of where they can start if they want to go to that path. There were a few people that wanted to go towards exploit development but had no idea where to begin. This at least provided them with the basics of where do you go to get more information and how can you start learning.
Man, that's a toughie. We've had everything from making coffee to people dropping O-Day to web app hacking to I mean everything. We have such a varied group of individuals, and then we have no requirements on what you speak about. You just have to speak about something. So which has led to just things I didn't think would be interesting were super interesting, and things I thought would be interesting were not interesting at all. But it was only 15 minutes, so I was able to endure it. That's probably good. Oh, we also have, just kidding. We also do like the Fight Club rules where you're not actually supposed to talk about the talk outside of, like, on Twitter or anything unless you get permission. So that's allowed us to, because we're mostly a trustworthy group, you can be like, please don't tweet about this. This is like still getting fixed, but I wanted to share it with the group. And for the most part, that's been honored. So we've seen some really, really cool techniques and hacks come through the group, and they've been honored of not getting blasted on Twitter. So it's been great.
One of the most interesting things for me was at one of our monthly meetups, and it was less the discussion, more the actual exercise, the practice. Someone had brought in basically a safe lock, except it was cut open in the back. So we actually got to take a look at the safe lock as we were trying to crack it, as we did the combination. Even had a little camera in it so that one person could be watching the screen, seeing what was happening with the mechanism, while the other person directed them, turn left, a little more, okay, now turn right, as they got one piece after another. So we have interesting discussions, don't get me wrong, but oftentimes the more interesting part is the actual exercise, the actual doing the lockpicking of various different kinds of locks, because there are many different kinds. Here at conferences, we actually only teach one kind of lockpicking typically. Maybe two if we feel like getting out the handcuffs.
Okay, so a couple things, and then a really short story really quick. So we cover a lot of things also, everything under the information security umbrella. But one quick story that I would find kind of interesting is, I'd say maybe 2.5 years ago, we had a young kid. His name is Brandon Chin. And he walks up to me and says, my name's Brandon Chin. I'm a hacker and I'm looking for a job, right? But on his card, he had recently passed the CEH exam. So I found it kind of interesting that he would call himself a hacker after just passing, but I liked his confidence. I liked the way that he presented himself. And I said, how about you present at the next meetup if you're a hacker, right? So one of the things that we do, and it's been very popular, is every quarter we have a breaking into cyber meetup. And I distinctly remember Brandon's first presentation was his first breaking into cyber presentation 2.5 years ago. So now, 2 years later, that is like Brandon's the keynote speaker now for all of our breaking into cyber meetups. So every time that I see him speak, I have my Mr. Miyagi moment because I distinctly remember him handing me that card. You know, I put him under pressure to speak at the next meetup, and he did it. And Brandon's a malware analyst right now. So, happy for Brandon. And then the second thing is, because we have all the different topics, it's hard to figure out which topics would be popular. But just a couple of weeks ago, we had a buffer overflow and shellcode manipulation, talk. And in my mind, I was like, not too many people are going to show up because of the topic. And come to find out, it was one of the most popular meetups we've had this year. So, it depends, you know.
I don't have any funny stories like they do. Cause we have classes from web app pen testing to digital forensics to all kinds of stuff. I think for us, the most interesting thing that we do is our core skills workshops, where we actually help people with interview skills, how to dress for an interview, how to do your resume, negotiating salary, because that's important. And a lot of new tech folks don't know what they have to do to get a job. And so it's not really the interesting stuff, but it's important stuff that we try to enforce in these ladies that, hey, make sure you put that you've done stuff in Kali Linux or that you've done JavaScripting or stuff like that. And so that's my little short story.
Yeah, hard to learn. Right. I'll just say that I was just saying that was super important. Oh, yay.
Sorry, we still have the CTF.
She's late. I was just saying that's super important because no one taught me that, and I think most people don't get taught that, and they have to actually fail at negotiations a few times before they realize how to do it right.
All right, so we got a new person on the panel here, just showed up. Let me just have you introduce yourself and what organization you're representing.
Hi, my name is Ann Sadler, and I'm representing the Hacker Women. So, and I'm really new at all of this. So, ask away. I try to answer whatever I can.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask Ann. I know you already heard answers for everybody else, but what would you say the most interesting thing you've ever discussed or taught or talked about in your group?
Oh wow, where do I start? Let's see. Most interesting thing. Well, we do the meetups we do for Hacker Women. We do lockpicking. We do hacking. When I say we, it's not me yet. I'm like down here. I watch everybody. You know, there's just a whole lot to learn, and we talk about a lot of things. A lot of, coding, hacking. Any kind of hacking, actually. So it's there's just a whole lot.
Okay, thank you. So with anybody, any group where there's human beings involved, right? There's going to be topics that, for whatever group or whatever group that happens to be part of, that you really should steer away from, right? What in your group has it been that topic is the one that seems to bring everybody to the microphone and yell at everybody?
Oh, that's a really tough question. There's really no topic that really come back to me.
We're relatively drama-free. One case that does come to mind is we had a high school kid come in, and he was giving a talk on how he broke into his school's network and got domain admin. And we were all like, oh, everyone got the Big Brother hats on, and started mentoring him and like, no. And you fast forward, that's 5, 6 years ago now. He's doing great. Like, he went to Virginia Tech, got his degree in computer science, completely smashing it out in the real world now. And it's really, I think, because he got taken under the wing and everyone's like steered him to CTFs instead of his school's network. And he smashed CTFs. He was, did the one at Cyber Patriot and then did a bunch of them while he was in high school, did them all online, which helped him land really good jobs. So, catching people before they turn to the dark side, I think will get everyone in our group, raised to the mic.
I'm gonna go more with his route on that question because we don't really have any drama or anything that gets people angry and up in arms, but one of the things we run into a lot of the times is obviously lockpicking. People are like, oh, so you can go break into something. No. Actually, anytime we teach lockpicking, the first thing we're supposed to teach them before we teach them anything else is our 2 rules. 1, don't break into a lock that you don't own or have express permission from the owner to break into. And 2, don't break a lock you need because not being able to get in your front door is bad.
Okay, a couple things. 1, we were giving a exploitation class, and in the middle of my presentation, I actually had someone stand up and say, my name is so-and-so. I actually teach this course in this city. Here's my information if you guys want to check me out. And fair to say, we almost had an altercation that day. We almost had an altercation. And then the second thing, I'll say it, recruiters. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that doesn't go over well, depending on how they approach that situation. So I'll throw it out there. Hope there's no recruiters in there.
Probably politics and religion. But we don't talk about that stuff. We're there to learn. So, I mean, you'll have your disagreements, but at the end of the day, you're here for a purpose. So.
Yeah, we don't really have anything that we get into. We're pretty agreeable as a group.
Okay, so this is the most drama-free organizations that you'll ever come across. So, yeah, so afterwards, just, get in touch with them and you can join their groups, and apparently there's no drama. So, none at all. So, okay, so that's really all the questions I had. I want to kind of open it up for audience questions. Was there anybody who had any questions for the panelists over here? So how do you encourage people to contribute back? That's pretty much the question. So let's start here.
So we do have a participation rule. It used to be very strongly enforced, and then everyone's gotten busy, so it's less strongly enforced. We'll occasionally send out something to the list that says reply back to the list with NoVA Hackers is the best, and then you get re-added to the list. So if you're just lurking, then you don't get re-added. We also just highly encourage, and it's a friendly environment, and it's pretty well stated on the website, like, we want you to come talk. You're expected to talk once a year. Although, like I said, we used to really strongly keep up with it, and I don't have time anymore to do that, and we're so big, but that's how. Oh, sorry.
Soul doesn't really have a lot of a problem with this because people like playing with locks, apparently. As it turns out, usually just setting picks down in front of people and a couple locks they can practice on. I want to say a third to 2/3 of the time they'll pick it up before I've even taught them anything, and just start poking at it even though they have no idea what they're doing yet. That being said, mostly with kids, have had some that they're a little hesitant to start. Usually just picking it up and actually doing a quick demonstration in my hands, showing them and saying, okay, now you try it, handing them the tools and then saying, okay, hold it this way, and walking them through it step by step is usually enough to get them more comfortable, loosen up a little bit, and go into the actual picking and instruction.
one of the main things that we do is try to foster a pressure-free environment. Oftentimes, I'm always cracking jokes. One of my main jokes is, do I need to bring alcohol to get everyone, to start talking and opening up?
He's done that before.
And I feel like if you have that environment that's pressure-free and everyone's fun, and to piggyback on what Mary was saying, like, we're all here for each other. So don't be afraid to geek it out. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And I feel like our biggest promoters of the group are the people that actually come to the group, right? So that's one of the things that have been helping us out a lot.
Our thing is everything we do is hands-on. So you got to bring a laptop. So, you can sit and watch, but you're not going to have any fun. It's more fun trying to break something or do competition practice or something like that. So that's pretty much everybody participates all the time.
Let me see. Well, we have a very good core group at Hacker Women, and the one thing we try to do is get the younger people involved, the younger women, girls involved. And sometimes it's hard to keep them from coming back. And so we try to make sure that they understand that this is all for free and that they can learn at their own pace. I'm one of them, self-taught. We encourage that. And yeah. We encourage that you do a lot of self-education and not to be afraid to ask questions. So we're really trying to be more, we're open and we're very flexible. So if you can't make it, okay, try to make it next time. So we keep going back to the new ones and bring them back in.
Okay, good. So that brings up one good question: is alcohol or no alcohol? Right. So we're just going to do a quick survey here. Alcohol? Yes. Yes. If you have kids. Right.
Well, our monthly meeting is at a bar, so. Okay, so our monthly meeting is at a bar, so obviously alcohol, but then there's other things like I recently did a presentation at a middle school for their engineering club. Obviously no alcohol. So. Did he ask the last question?
Did you want to answer the last question?
Let me just go ahead. No problem. So one thing I found out that really works is I try to get to know people on a first name basis and try to make them feel like they're a part of something and not just attending this event. And there's a variety of people, and some people, might be shy. They may not be great public speakers. So what I try to do is I try to encourage them to participate in the sense of giving a presentation or anything like that, because that's going to help them, and then they're also going to feel like they're part of something. Give them a little bit of responsibility. They're more likely to return, as opposed to those that are, they're sitting in the back and you don't even know who that is. You don't know their name. It's unlikely that they would return, especially if they don't feel like they're part of something.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, one thing I've noticed is that whenever you have a speaking gig or you have a teaching gig, that is actually the best time you find out that topic, because you deep dive into that topic. So really the best way to learn is to teach. So when it comes down to that. So that's one thing I've noticed. So, okay, back to our other question. Alcohol or no alcohol?
So we started with that, and through some venue changes where we weren't allowed, I think you can have a great meeting without it now. So we don't have alcohol at ours.
I think the came this way.
Okay, so it's drama-free and very alcohol-free is what it sounds like for most of us here, so. Okay, good. So, yeah. Okay.
We are everything. We're visible. Like, we are either on a panel, working something, organizing something, or doing your CFPs. It's actually a very active group.
Thank you. Anybody have a question for the panelists? Any more? Yes.
So a couple of you have already touched on this, but what do you do to welcome in new members? I mean, a lot of us are introverts, not good at the whole socializing, networking thing. So you have a random person, never been there before, walks in. What do you do to bring them into the fold?
That's a great question. I'm going to hand this to Tyrone. He's the most introverted person I know.
Yeah, believe it or not, I am introverted. So what I do is, in our meetups, there's normally a total of 45 minutes of networking. And what I do at the beginning is I have 2 challenges. I challenge everyone in the room to meet someone new, right? In those 45 minutes, we break it up into 3 15-minute sessions. And then I also challenge myself to meet everyone in the room and to introduce myself. So I let them know that if I haven't introduced myself to you yet, I will. I know that I haven't. And then I try to make that a point to make them feel welcomed and to foster that environment, that pressure-free environment. And then that gets them to open up more. Anything else?
At our workshops, we do lunch. So before the actual workshop starts, we'll have food. And usually during that time is when people mingle with each other. That's also where we get your computer set up. So if you're new and you don't have your stuff set up, that's a way for us to get to know who you are, kind of help you get through those hardships if there's any. And then you get to have food with it. And then we also do happy hours once a quarter. And we try to invite and encourage people to come out. Even if you don't drink, you don't have to. But it's just a fun place to kind of go and meet other new people in a real chill environment.
So given those answers, we could probably do a bit better. Most of the people that come are referrals from someone that's already in the group, or they've seen it on someone's slides or heard somebody talking about it, so they kind of have an understanding. And then generally, we don't have a hard requirement that you have to talk. So a lot of people will come to one and see that it's really gentle. There's a variety of topics. No one gets blasted. Then the next time, I think they feel comfortable to give that 5-10 minute presentation and be welcomed in. I don't know if Joe or anybody else. Yeah, you got here late. Yeah, we've had 17-year-olds up to really old people too.
Like Joe.
Like Joe.
So the way we try to welcome them in is just really make sure that they understand we're here to help them. We're here to help everyone learn and grow. There's really, even though you may not be an expert at X, Y, and Z, you do have a skill. You do have something that you can contribute to. And really, I try to find that and really show them where they can shine, because then they'll be more, they'll feel more welcome that way, because, they feel like they have something that they can contribute.
All right, we had a question right here. Yeah.
In those devious minds of the students that are the ones that seem to do better and kind of take to the students that are the devious minds, but they're not always the ones that have the highest academics, right? And then I feel like I got to convince administration to bring me those bad apples, right? And bring them in, because I feel like those are the best students in there. And then I got to bring them in, flip them, right? Teach them the ethics. And then after the ethics part, set them down the right path, right? So I'm going to bring them in, all high schoolers on some level are devious minds, right? But, what's your advice for me with that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and almost, I think, the opening to a movie. There might be a movie written about something like that. Anybody have anything?
I actually used to teach in a public school, so convincing the administration is probably going to be your hardest part. As far as convincing the kids to do things ethically and whatnot, try to explain to them, try to frame it as a challenge. It's easier to do things the unethical way, but it's more satisfying to do it the ethical way because it's more difficult. So sort of dare them to do it. I bet you can't do it this way, kind of thing.
So, I actually like a little bit of Evil Genius. Right? So if you know them, send them my way. I feel like if you can turn that evil genius into someone that's actually looking for other bad guys, right? Normally on the defensive side, because they're doing it and they have that mentality, then they know how to find other folks that are doing it. So making that transition from them being like offensive, like malcontents to actually finding the bad guys helps out. And if you can actually show them, the progress that they're making and in some form that they're actually helping something, then that kind of turns them as well.
Put them in competitions. There's tons of cyber competitions out there. Cyber Patriots for middle school, high school. Then there's a bunch of stuff online. Just get them in competitions. That way they're doing it ethically and they're learning how to do that stuff, and you can kind of steer them towards doing it for the good side of things, not the bad side of things.
Come to our meetups.
Yeah, go to the meetups.
Meetup.com. Everybody's on Meetup.com, I think. Are you guys? Yeah. Yep.
A lot of ours is word of mouth. We go to the website a lot. That's pretty much it.
Okay. All right.
See other conferences.
Jeremy, I just add bug bounty to that.
Yeah. They can make money too.
You can make money, and then a lot of places have like star.company.com as in scope. They can learn and do as much as they want, and it's safe, right? And so rather than breaking into random stuff, they can do it, and it's okay, and then they might get money for it.
Okay. Thank you. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So, anybody else have any questions? Yes.
Real basic one, just how big are the memberships for your various groups versus like how many regular attendees do you have?
So I guess really the question is your total. You have like a total count of everybody in your group, and then you have really how many people come regularly, because there's usually two different numbers, quite different numbers. So let's start here.
I think every organization has that issue. I think we're up to 60 some members, and I want to say 14 of them are regulars that we can count on.
So our website says that we have about 2,000 members, but we limit the sizes of our classes because it gets crazy trying to troubleshoot 30 or 40 laptops. So we limit it to 22. Then we have a remote option, so you can be in wherever you want. But this is membership across the country. So we've got about 20 or so that regularly show up on site somewhere either in Virginia or Maryland.
We're at a little over 3,800 members. And the number that I use all the time is that 30% number. So we set our RSVPs at 150. Normally we'll get about 30% of the people that show up to that. Also on the meetup site, you can see the total members and the total active members. So our active members are also at about 30% of that. So we try to, keep those numbers up as much as we can.
Tool is a little bit of an interesting case here because we are an international nonprofit, so I don't have any idea how much are in the other chapters or worldwide. I mean, it's actually bigger in Europe than it is here in the States. As far as Tool DC goes, I know our mailing list has something like 500 or 600 people. Usually at the meetups, I want to say probably 50 people at least show up, but I want to say we probably have about 15 or so regulars. Sometimes less, sometimes more. And then a lot of the people outside of the core regulars will have repeats that come up. They're just not consistent.
I think last time we checked, there was like 500 on the mailing list, and it's been culled a few times over the years. So we get rid of stragglers or people that aren't participating. For the meetings, between 20 and 50 will show up. And then the mailing list has a participation requirement, so we have people from all over the world. So you definitely have people that are really active on the mailing list that just can't show up to meetings because they're not in NoVA. Oh, we also have Slack channel, which is super active, and that's where everyone's hanging out for the most part. So
we We have close to 200 members. In terms of active, during a meetup, we'll see about, around 20 people or so, that come that are active. Some people aren't able to make it every time, but we do have a decent amount active, but generally it's about 200, members total.
Excellent. Thanks. Any other questions? Anybody? Comments? Yes. Oh, that's a great question. So just to repeat the question, how do you feel now about your group to how you felt before when you first started?
So when I first started, I wasn't sure if there would be a real big interest in it. I really didn't see everyone's perspective. After really starting it and interacting with a variety of people, I see that people are really interested and they are interested in learning. And there is a demand for that. And now my job has been, how can I fulfill that need and provide people with what they're really looking for, especially in this community, in the cyber community. People are always actively learning. It's a Saturday, and look where we're here at a conference. Other industries may not do that, but so security is completely different.
So I think I selfishly wanted to know all the smart people in this area when I moved here, and was having a hard time doing that with like NoVA and OWASP. We have a family now. I mean, we have a group of like probably 50 or so people they're my family. I can trust them with my root password if I had to. And then whenever you go to conferences, you immediately have friends and family at any conference, because like Janitor was saying, like they're on every board, they're at every conference, because we're basically global at this point. So it's nice to have an extended family and people that I trust.
I'm probably the most inexperienced person on this board, to be frank. I actually met Tool at B-Sides DC last year, so 2016. It seemed really interesting at first. I didn't actually know a whole lot about what I was walking into, but I tried the lockpicking, and then I went to their next meeting and just immediately dove into it, started volunteering and going to different events and whatnot, and teaching repeatedly over and over again. I want to expand it. The way I feel about it is that we have a great group of people, but I feel like we could reach a lot more and we could teach a lot more. We just have to work towards it. And don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure that they've come a long way from where it started, but I think we're still in our beginnings.
Yeah, I am emotionally tied to my group the way that I'm emotionally tied to a lot of things. When we first started, our topics were all about IPv6 for maybe 6 months. And Jeremy and you guys were a big part of that. And Joe, you guys were a big part of that. But, I felt like we were telling the world about it for 2 years. And then we realized that not many people were listening. So we actually started changing topics. And I'd say maybe 2.5 years in, I was unemployed for a while, and I actually considered giving the group up. And I would say for maybe 2 months we didn't have any meetups because I didn't want to do it anymore. But what I did was I planned a presentation. I got a location, and which is usually the hardest thing to do. And it was that calling which got me back. And then I ended up winning contracts and winning jobs because I was giving the presentations. So, I'm really emotionally vested in that, and it allows me to incorporate other things that I'm doing, like the Hack Ed, and for folks that want to present, I actually want at some point to have everyone on the panel come and present at the meetup. I'm all about networking. I'm all about, that friendships. If anyone wants to present, Joe's presented, Jeremy's presented, Morgan's presented. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Oh, right now I feel great about the meetup. Right now, yeah.
I found WSC because I was studying for CISSP. That was 2013. And Lisa was like, hey, come be on the board. I was like, sure. 4 years later, almost, I'm still on the board. I'm emotionally tied to it, like he said. I mean, I'm on a panel at B-Sides. Like, I don't even like public speaking, and I'm on a panel. I'm doing a webinar next month, so I've definitely grown from this meetup. I've been to his meetups. They were really cool. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at.
We're still fairly new. My biggest difference between then and now, which is a year and a half ago when I joined, is that I'm no longer afraid of a computer. I was very afraid of computers until a year and a half ago. So now I can actually look at it and use it the way it's meant to be used instead of throwing it out the window. So.
Okay, great. We have a few minutes left for one more question. A couple minutes. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah.
Add on to the kind of earlier, now how do I convince the admin or the mothers, right, to let me get those students, those devious minds in, right? Because they're looking at GPAs, right? And they're looking at, the traditional admission process, where I've noticed those aren't exactly the ones that thrive, in every instance in my experience. So how do I convince admin to bring me those, those outcasts that, you don't want them in there because they're doing the wrong thing?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question.
I would say one of the things to do is when you're talking to the admin, point out that you're teaching science and math skills. You're teaching technology. If anything is going to help them improve their scores in especially those critical hardcore subjects that administration is usually so irritated about because they're usually the low scoring subjects, it's going to be the kind of stuff you're doing. So, yes, they might have a low GPA, but explain to them that this is a way for them to get that GPA up, both by motivating them and by reinforcing those technology and math and science skills.
So one of the things that we do is we try to point out that no matter what level of expertise you're at, there's quite a few other people in the room that are at that same level, right? So what we try to do is we let them know that they too can give a presentation, right? And there's people in the room that are probably in the same boat as them. But if they can see that they have that ability to reach out to other people and they have that ability to affect someone else's life and help them learn and help them change, then I feel like it can do wonders for them, for their lives. And they can also turn that into a business as well. Maybe they can start their own meetup group, and who knows where it can be. Maybe they can one day be on the panel at B-Sides.
I guess just a suggestion for teaching. Maybe you can create a little mini CTF that if they can pass, that shows aptitude regardless of their GPA. You can hit me up. I'll help you make that, or we can find resources.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's it. Can we take one more question? Does anybody else have any more questions? One more? Yes. I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry, I still couldn't hear that. Oh, you heard that. Well, look at that. Okay, you heard it.
Expansion. Big time. Getting more training, getting more, the big thing is SOC learning how to do SOCs, how to build SOCs, threat intel, getting that kind of training in to our workshops.
Yeah, definitely expansion. Like I said, we started in Boston, also in Miami, looking for speakers. For instance, the Hack Ed group that I'm a part of, our students were just in there giving presentations, the last 2 meetups. So, just having that ability to find other folks that want to give presentations and helping as many people as we possibly can. Maybe we'll do something too.
I've already said I want to expand, so yeah. We're trying to get more people involved. We're trying to reach out more, both to the cybersecurity industry, but also to younger demographics to try and get them, bringing them up into this kind of mindset to be aware of security and aware of their choices and what's going on. But as far as our current actual activities, the practical aspect of that is actually going out and doing more demonstrations and doing more conferences, participating more, stuff like that.
Hadn't thought about it. Getting more people to put that they're a NoVA hacker on their presentations, because we have a lot of people that present around the world. And then just getting more people that are on the list to show up and give talks.
So I'll have to piggyback with that and get more of the regular attendees to come and present on whatever topic that they want. Sometimes that can be a little difficult, but really try to encourage everyone to participate, especially in that fashion, by presenting.
Okay, I think that's... We have one more? Oh, did we miss you? I'm sorry.
Oh, about the oh, yes, I do. What we're trying to do is get younger girls into cybersecurity, or at least be comfortable with computers. So that's our goal. We haven't figured out how to do that yet, but that's what we want to do. So we're going to find a way to do it.
All right. Thank you. I think we're going to go ahead and close now. I appreciate you coming to the panel, and have a good rest of your day.